the better land. You're always talking about the boys in the better land. The boys in the better land. But the boys in the better land. You're always talking about the boys in the better land. The boys in the better land. Drivers got names to fill 2 double barrels. He spits out, breathes out, only smokes carols. And he's refreshing the world in mind, body and spirit. Mind, body and spirit. You better hear it and fear it.
Yeah! Hey! That's it. That's the towel, man. I got it in Dallas for games 1 and 2 of the last series. And this is the Ralphcast podcast and the preview show for the conference final matchup between the Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers. Oh boy. Oh boy. These are 2 great teams arriving together at the same time, and we'll talk about that in the Ralph Stack later. They've met lots of times in the playoffs, but never before have they both been at the top of their games and serious Stanley Cup contenders. This is going to be something special. So on the show, again, we've got a lot going on. So this week, we don't have time for 100 miles from hockey, although we had a great week last week in New York. We're going to leave show and tell on the side too, because this preview show is stocked with great information. On the program, we have Megan Chayka from Stathletes. Boy, does she break this one down. The information that Megan's going to give us in just a minute is superb. You're going to love how she talks about the numbers for this series and why the Stars are in a different spot than they were a year ago. Then we've got our own Savannah Humoller. Savannah works with D210 Sports. Savannah's going to be covering this series in Dallas and in Edmonton. And in fact, she's going to be doing daily reports for us from Alberta. So, as we look forward to this series, it's so exciting. In the Ralph Stack segment today, I'm going to talk to you about the history of the series, as well as some other cool observations about what's all going on this time of year. But now, let's crank this up. Let's get this going. Let's start with our friend, Megan Chayka, who's going to break it down for us. Megan, welcome.
Thank you.
It's always great to see you, and I'm sure you, like the rest of the NHL, rubbing their palms about this series. The Dallas Stars and the Edmonton Oilers in the Western Conference Final. They met a year ago. Edmonton beat them in 6 games, but it was maybe a little closer than we all thought. What did we see from last year's series that might play this time?
Well, it's way too close. And I actually think this is kind of like my Stanley Cup final. Whoever comes out of it sure will be beaten up too. So not sure about how the actual final will go, but this is going to be an incredible series. It was so close last year. 2 games were by 1 goal, including that game 6. And goals were 17-14 for the Oilers. Scoring chances, so high-quality shots, 72-69 for the Oilers. So only 3 more high-quality shots in that whole series. Odd-man rushes, 19-18. So both played with some speed, very, very tight. But it goes to show you, it's like those little bounces too. And you have to have consistent performance by those top-end players. So last season, McDavid led that series, 10 points. But Jamie Benn had 7 points. He was the most for the Dallas Stars.
Yeah, and Ben, some of these other guys, Ben, Tyler Seguin, Duchesne, this year, they're not scoring in bunches. One of the guys that the Stars fans are scratching their heads about is Matt Duchesne. What do you see about Duchesne's game that might be positive, even though he's not finding the net, Megan?
Well, on face value, it does look like it's a really disappointing year for Duchesne in the playoffs, 0 goals. But he has been making a lot of high-quality plays, and it does show up in the analytics. So the nice thing with the eye test is even though you see him making those plays, you just know how many with data. He's tied for 3rd in the team, actually, with assists, only behind Rantanen and Harley. And 3rd in the NHL in passes completed to the slot. 2nd in passes completed to the inner slot. So he's getting in really tight and making those passes. And 3rd in primary scoring chance assists, meaning he's setting his teammates up for really high-quality shots. So even though there's some goose eggs there, he's actually driving a lot of the play, and I think he could be key in this series.
That's interesting. This is also different a year later based on who's playing, and Dallas has some different things this year they didn't have last year, beginning with Mikko Rantanen. Let's go there first. what kind of an edge does Mikko give down? Like, how big is it to have him this year and to be able to play with McDavid and Draisaitl and those guys?
It's huge. And actually, I got a lot of flack because I said on trade deadline that Dallas was now my favorite for the Stanley Cup because of the Rantanen addition. But I do think it's those quality of players that are those game breakers. You need scoring, and he's 55.9% involved in every scoring on the Dallas Stars in the playoffs, highest rate of any player in the playoffs. He's fourth in points per game, only being beat by two other players on Edmonton and one other player. But of course, it's McDavid and Draisaitl that are a little bit ahead of him. But still, he's top four in the playoffs. So he's going to be an X factor. And if, Dallas pulls this out, you're probably looking at him as the reason why.
You also can look at a couple other things. Miro Heiskanen's back. Jason Robertson's back. What is... You and I visited before the playoffs. And it was... You were very confident. I don't know if they can win without this guy. I was with you. I didn't know that they could win without this guy. Now that we see him back, we kind of know how important he is, yeah?
Oh, you're having nightmares if you're Edmonton. You did not want to see him return in good shape. I mean, he hadn't played since January, so who knows what game shape he'd be in, but he looked great. The nice thing about Heiskanen, too, is he really does control the pace of the play. He can possess the puck a lot, which is really great for your team because he eats minutes, and also, Edmonton likes to play with possession. But if you keep the puck, they can't play off the rush. They can't make their plays. McDavid's not flying around if Heiskanen's controlling the play. So he's going to be very important for the blue line. He's like the stabilization, the quarterback. He sort of controls everything for the Dallas Stars when he's on the ice.
Last year, I worried about Jake Ottinger's game, and then he got beat by Skinner, and I kept shaking my head. This year, he looks very much the part of a guy who's put all that behind him, and he is ready to go. What do you have on the matchup and goal between these two guys, and how much better is Ottinger this year than he was a year ago?
Well, it's not even close. This year, he's second in goals saved above expected in the playoffs of any goaltender. It's a huge edge for Dallas. He's going to save those shots that you think, they're going to go in. And Edmonton is huge struggles. I mean, they've had injuries. They're going 1-2. You're not really sure who they're going to play. And when you look at Picard and you look at Skinner, I mean, the issue with them is their save percentage on scoring chances, so getting those high-quality shots, is very, very low. They're like second lowest scoring chances in the playoffs. So if you get quality shots on them, you're most likely going to score. And the opposite is true with Dallas. So if I'm the Oilers, you're really looking defensively how to shut down those high-quality shots because they've been in the back of the net this playoffs.
Okay. Any other numbers, people, statistics, trends you want to bring out that we should maybe look at that, again, remember, it's the Dallas audience. What will make them feel better? What will get them thinking they might be able to take this team this time?
Well, I'm not sure if it'll make you feel better because last year the power play went 0 for 14 in this series, but they've had the best power play this playoffs. So I think that makes you feel better. Over 30% for the Dallas Stars. So if they go on the power play, there's been good conversions. Need that to continue to, get those extra goals when you need a bump. Overtime as well. Dallas has won all overtimes this postseason, but so have the Oilers, 3-0. So I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up again. First goals too, 13 of 16 playoff games they've had. So only 3 of 16 playoff games they've scored first, but in that 3, they've been 3-0. So scoring first has been important for them. And comebacks. I mean, this may make you feel not as great because the Edmonton Oilers did something miraculous, especially against the LA Kings.
Yeah.
I was actually just with the LA Kings and wasn't a lot of happiness that I said the Edmonton Oilers might win the Stanley Cup. But they had 6 consecutive comeback wins, the most of any NHL team in history. So pretty cool to see that. I don't know if your luck runs out if you're always trying to come back. But certainly, Dallas getting some momentum and having Ottinger play well, I think it'll be a different feeling this series.
Who wins the series?
You know what? I have Edmonton.
Oh!
I do. I know. I have Edmonton in 6.
No, Dallas.
But I think it's going to be very tight, very physical, a lot of battles, and I do think it'll come down to the star players. So it's Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the best playmaker, fastest skater, and the number 1 goal scorer in the NHL, going to take apart what is the most complete team of the Dallas Stars, right? Goaltending, defense, and then offensive talent.
And you'll be up there. Have fun.
Well,
Have fun.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too. Thanks so much for joining us. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Savannah, Pete DeBoer just had his first presser for the Western Conference Final. You were there. What did you learn?
I'll tell you right now how proud Pete DeBoer is of this team. Beating two of the best teams in the league is exactly what he said. We just went through two of the best teams, and now we're getting healthier as they make their way into this next round to face the Edmonton Oilers. So that's one big note that I took from it. Jason Robertson, you obviously did not have him start the Stanley Cup playoffs. You also get Miro Heiskanen back here in the second round series. And then Tyler Seguin, you can't count him out. He came back right at the end of the regular season. So the Stars have faced a lot of adversity when it came to the injuries. And now you have a lot of these guys back as you're going into this series against the Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, they're healthy. They're ready to go. And we saw Miro Heiskanen look like Miro Heiskanen pretty quickly. We've seen Tyler Seguin contribute. We've seen Jason Robertson sort of struggle, stuck, and be unnoticed in a lot of ways here since he's come back. He does well against Edmonton. Do you think he might be getting closer? What's your sense there with Robertson, that will he start to have impact?
I think that everybody is hoping that he will have some impact here soon. Obviously, he's had some ups and downs through the season. He started off the regular season not doing so hot, and then he went on a stretch in December into the late months of the spring where he was just scoring goals constantly. And so I think him having that little setback for an injury right there, it's possible that he gets going here in the playoffs at some point. So we'd love to see it.
Okay, so Jamie Benn led the Stars in scoring a year ago in the Western Conference Final. That's a recipe for them to get beat by Edmonton in 6 games. You can't have Jamie Benn be your leading scorer in a playoff series, especially this year. Ben has been a lightning rod for conversation here. Did you get a chance to ask Pete DeBoer about where he thinks Ben's game is at and what he might be able to do to help this club here going forward?
I asked Pete DeBoer point blank what his expectations are for Jamie Benn going into this next round against the Oilers, but he really touched more on Jamie Benn's leadership inside the locker room and the momentum that he's given a lot of these younger guys in that first and second round. While he's out there still making some plays and trying to open up some of those passing lanes and get the guys the puck, I still think that Jamie Benn needs to do a little bit more as they are about to face the Edmonton Oilers. But you do have to look at the depth when it comes to these forwards. This year you have Mikko Rantanen. You have a guy out there that can go out and shoot the puck and produce a lot of goals. And so that's something to, really account for when it comes to the Western Conference Final. Jamie Benn, can he step up? Is he going to be that captain and the leader? I don't know. Pete DeBoer did not necessarily answer my question there.
Yeah, I mean, you understand the fact that he wants to kind of, pump his captain's tires. You also understand that maybe less is better for Jamie in terms of don't take the dumb penalties. Don't swing at anybody after a scrum, those kinds of things. But this is an opportunity for Ben, and I'm sure he realizes it. This is the best chance they've had. And I think the reason they're there's a few reasons, right? Mikko and then Miro coming back. But Jake Ottinger's game today is very different than it was 12 months ago. As you break down the series, and Skinner's coming in hot too. I mean, he threw 2 shutouts, to dispatch the Golden Knights there to get into the series. They won 8 of 9. I still give Jake the edge this year, where I wasn't going to give it to him maybe last year. Where do you like the goaltending battle here?
I talked to Jake Ottinger before Game 6, and one thing that I really admire about Jake is his calmness. He has an ability to just be comfortable in where his headspace is at. And one thing that we really talked about was the penalty kill. I asked him, with the Stars taking a lot of penalties right now, how much pressure does that add on his shoulders? And he said he actually really thrives on the PK. That's his time where he feels like he can shine, make a big play. He said, I can't score goals or I can't make hits, but I can make some big saves on the PK. And so Jake Ottinger is a very comfortable goalie. And I think right now we're seeing prime Jake Ottinger. This is the best we've seen from him in the last 4 consecutive playoff runs. I feel like Jake is at his most comfortable. And if you saw there in Game 6, some of those big saves that he made in Game 3, it could have been a different game, but he's out there making some incredible saves.
All right, and finally, you've been around this group. You've been around the series last year. You've been around the series this year. Do you feel it's different this year? Do you feel like this could be their year. Where are you at with all that?
There truly is something special brewing here for the Dallas Stars. Pete DeBoer has talked about it. I've talked to a few other guys in the locker room about how they feel like something special is really happening here. It really could be the adversity that this team has faced when it comes to injuries and their battle through the regular season to get to the point where they were at. But then you see them beat two of the best teams in the league, and you really start to believe at this point. And the guys in this locker room are starting to believe. And, it's funny, when I talked to Jake Ottinger as well before Game 6, he talked about even when there's a loss or a win, he said we could go down and I think to myself, oh, this wasn't our year. But then you get another win and you think about the parade going through your head. Yeah. And these guys are going through the motions, but I think there's a lot of belief in this team, and it starts within that locker room.
Savannah, it's going to be a great series, and we'll check in with you pretty much every day. Thanks.
Thank you, Ralph.
Finally, in today's Ralphcast, my first year in the booth with the Stars was magic. I was on the bus for the most unlikely playoff run in franchise history. Norm Green bought the distressed franchise from absentee ownership in the summer of 1990. He hired Bobby Clark as our GM. Clark got Bob Gainey to coach it. Gainey brought in Doug Armstrong to handle team travel. And I was hired a few days before the regular season began. It would be the first Stars-Oilers playoff series I was worked that spring. In 1990-91, the Stars amassed a whopping 27 wins, 68 points, and wound up in the Stanley Cup final. Let that sink in. Gretz had just left for Hollywood, but Mess was still there. The Oilers won their fifth cup in a 7-year span in 1990. They were the defending champs. That spring, we took down the President's Trophy winning Blackhawks in round 1, put out Hull and the Blues, the team with the second best record in hockey in round 2, and then needed only 5 games to take out the Oilers. That would be the last of the glory days in Edmonton. We inflicted the final fatal blow. Less than 3 years after that, the Stars were in Texas. Then we started building. The Oilers were good enough to make the playoffs, but not good enough to slow us down in the years we got rolling. In what has to be a mathematical oddity for the ages, Dallas and Edmonton met 5 straight times and 6 out of 7 years in the playoffs from 1997 to 2003. We lost that first one, but won the next 5 series. It would be another 21 years before the teams would meet again, and that was last spring's Western Conference Final. Edmonton took it in 6. Now, for the first time, both teams arrive as serious Stanley Cup contenders at the same time. Either team could win it. Both believe it's their year. What you get from me here is I give you Ralph stuff. I share my experience of 25 years in the booth with the franchise, over 30 years of calling NHL hockey, and the leveraging of my contacts to give you perspectives most don't have. I'm really good at cutting through bullshit, and this time of years, well, there's tons of bullshit to cut through. Coaches misdirect, players don't share much, and the deep and embedded hockey culture and what that means presents severe challenges this time of year. I can guide you through a lot of that. For example, Pete DeBoer in his first conference final presser praised Jamie Benn for his leadership in the Winnipeg series and especially in Game 6. Now, we watched the series. Lots of times Ben was more a liability than a help to the cause. Pete knows that better than anyone, but he's not going to say it. His focus is on pumping his captain's tires and keeping his team on track. Everything upbeat now, especially from an experienced guy like Pete. He also knows never let the media do its own thinking. The media, largely stenographers this time of year, is very cooperative in this regard. You want these things translated, all that's going on in there, I'm your boy. Very few are reporting in any traditional sense. And now, the pre-stars of the series. Stars players who will be the difference. Dallas goaltender Jake Ottinger. This was the spring to take the big leap from learning to owning the Stanley Cup playoffs. He needed to, He has, and now I'm a believer. He's a strength, and he's a big reason, and as big a reason as any, the Stars are in the conference final. Stuart Skinner beat him last year in the same spot. I'm picking Jake here. Why? Last year I wondered. I hoped. This year I know, because he's proved it. He's locked in. He's going to be really good, and he's going to have to be. Edmonton platoons their goaltenders, or have, bouncing from Calvin Pickard to Stuart Skinner with equal success. Pickard got the winning started. Skinner just shut out Vegas in consecutive games to put them out of their very visible misery. Edmonton has won 8 of their last 9. This is a team on a serious roll. The number 2 pre-star of the series, Miro Heiskanen. I had Stathlete's Megan Chayka tell us just a few minutes ago that Edmonton is having nightmares about Miro Heiskanen being back up to speed for this series. Miro can dominate games, and the best way to defend the Oilers is to not let them get the puck and get it cranked up. That's Miro's bag. Like Sergei Zubov in those playoff series in the 90s, Heiskanen will control large swaths of the game if needed and jump in on offense to create layered attacks. And his partner, Thomas Harley, just scored the spring's biggest goal yet. These two will very much mess with the Oilers program. And the number 1 pre-star of the series, Mikko M.F. Rantanen. Mikko's a dog, contributing even when he's not dominating. And he's the players we didn't have a year ago that can go toe-to-toe with McDavid and Draisaitl. Those two are elite. They're the best of the best. Guess what? So is Mikko Rantanen. Rantanen has been in on almost 60% of Dallas's playoff goals. That's best in the playoffs. We've seen him take over games and series. Guys like this want to count. Guys like this collect cups. He's got one, so he knows what it takes. In fact, the one he got in 2022, Colorado swept the Oilers in the Western Conference Final. In that series, Mikko had 4 goals and 6 points. Yep. This ain't last year's Stars team, and the biggest reasons are a matured and ready Jake Ottinger and the newly arrived Mikko Rantanen. And now, Nostra Ralphus time. My pre-Stars have been pretty tight, and I'm going to nail this one too. Are you ready? The Dallas Stars are going to beat the Edmonton Oilers and return to the Stanley Cup Final. And they're going to beat them because those 3 players listed above will have big impact on the series. And consider this. We're still waiting for Jason Robertson, Matt Duchene, and others to find their touch. But that hasn't mattered because the Stars' forward depth is the best in hockey. Their defensive group has gelled, and now Miro's back there. And Pete DeBoer is ready to go from conference final specialist to head coach in a Stanley Cup Final where his team will have a real shot at finally getting him over the hump. It's all happening, friends. It won't be a straight line until the handshakes, so enjoy it and get ready for huge things on the way. I'll be in Dallas and at games 1 and 2. If you see me, please come and say hi. I love being with you all this time of year. That's our show for today. But we're going to be dropping 2-minute clips from Savannah Humoller during this round. She'll be in Edmonton for games 3 and 4 with D210 Sports, and she's also reporting for us, so please stay tuned. For Megan Chayka, Savannah Humoller, and my assistant Kelly Ortiz, I'm Ralph Strangis. We'll see you soon. How soon? In Dallas for games 1 and 2. Let's do this! The Ralphcast podcast. We'll see you next week.